from pancreatic cancer, and then my Uncle Jim passed away, and then my mom died from cancer. My Uncle Jim died from cancer. And we have a family in our church that has 3 boys, the Koenigs. The oldest boy has a brain tumor, the middle boy has stage 4 cancer, and the youngest boy is having seizures. And they're the same age as our boys. So there's plenty of challenges that we face in life, and it's a tough thing. And I think for me, and that's my introduction for you, Guy. I just think he's an inspiration for me, and just for resiliency and his faith. And, meet Guy Gruters.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to just tell a story about the second shoot down that I had in the cabin. Okay, this was after being rescued by the bravest men in the world, the Jolly Green, combat search and rescue. In the Air Force, that's the Jolly Green chopper pilots and crews. In the Air Force, in the Army, that's the dust-off choppers. I don't know what they call them in the Marines. What do they call them in the Marines? The choppers that come in combat and get the guys in the middle of the firefights and so on. But anyway, these guys are the bravest of the brave, is what we said in the fighter units. And at any rate, we were rescued by them just offshore under heavy fire. And one of the crews doing the same thing about a mile out with hundreds of guns firing. Got shot down 5 months later. Everybody killed. One of the shells hit the chopper as they were trying to get another guy. But this is the second mission back for me then, in December 20th of 1967. And it was very bad weather in North Vietnam that particular day. We were flying F-100 Super Sabres, and there was we were using 2-seat training versions for it. We were all F-100 pilots, but we'd use the 2-seat versions and we'd swap off, one guy would be a pilot, the other guy would be the instructor. And so we'd go back and forth so that everybody could log pilot time. But it was very nice to have 2 people on that team. One guy would be on the maps and one guy would be flying it, and then you'd swap off and so on and so forth. You'd fly about half of each mission because we refueled twice. We had our own personal tanker. It was an ideal combat operation. You guys all appreciate what I'm saying here. We were one aircraft. We were not a flight of 4. We were not a squad of 10 men. We weren't a company of 250 people. We were one aircraft with our own tanker across the border in Laos, and we refueled twice, and our job was to get down low and find targets. And to do that, we had to stay up at low altitude, and you can't do that in a fighter unless you don't have bombs on. So what we had was marking rockets, 14 white phosphorus 2.5-inch marking rockets on the wings, and then we had 20-millimeter cannon that are part of the fuselage, so we had multiple 20-millimeter cannon. That was our only firepower, but our job wasn't really to fire and kill. Our job was to mark for the kill. And generally, what we went after was the convoys. The North Vietnamese had 200 and 300 truck convoys coming constantly out of the ports at Haiphong, where they got all their war equipment for their 400,000 North Vietnamese troops across the border in Laos and Cambodia. Our guys were not allowed to go over there and get them. We had 500,000 troops in South Vietnam. They had about the same, 300 to 500,000 along that border in the jungles. And then they had another 300,000 guerrillas behind and around our guys. So these 2 armies are fighting, but we have to wait for them to come across the border for us to be able to hit them. So that's an army of about 1 million people being supplied by truck convoys. They had no aircraft coming down there. You guys know what it takes to support an army. This is ammunition, fuel, and so on. It's all done by the Russians coming into the port of Haiphong. They would not let us blockade the port. And then put on these trucks, and then these truck convoys would come down North Vietnam, go across 4 main passes, and then down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, supply all these forces. So our job was to try to intercept these convoys before they got into the Ho Chi Minh Trail jungles, because once they got in there, it was hundreds of trails in those jungles. You really couldn't get them except with ground troops, like the Hmong tribesmen of Laos. But we would try to get them on the more open roads in North Vietnam. So we go down, the strike fighters, about 100 a day, are coming in at about 20,000 feet because they got all these bombs on, and jets are efficient on fuel at high altitude. We'd come in and we were on the deck. We'd go along these roads. The convoys would travel all night, and then in the daytime they'd pull over to the side of the road. The jungles in North Vietnam were still thick enough, they couldn't go into the jungles, so they just pulled over to the side. But that was good enough to make them invisible to the guys coming in at 20,000 feet. But we could see them because we're weaving back and forth on the roads. But that meant we were getting fired at a lot because there's a lot of guns in North Vietnam. There were 150,000, 180,000 radar-directed anti-aircraft cannon, and there was about 10,000 50 caliber machine guns that they called the 12.7 millimeters, and they had literally 10 million or so automatic rifles. And a lot of that was fired at us when we were down low like that. So we're always in heavy tracer fire, but we're moving at 500 miles an hour, and we're constantly turning left and right. And it's not easy to know when this guy's coming at you. You might hear him in the distance, but all of a sudden he's everything's over you. And you're firing at him, but it's not easy to hit you. So we took pretty heavy losses, but we generally got the job done. So this particular day now, there was a 1,500-foot ceiling. Well, when the ceiling was 1,500 feet, that means there's clouds above 1,500 feet for the people that don't know what a ceiling is. The strike flights couldn't come because they had to see the targets to dive bomb. So we like to go up there by ourselves. You can imagine it's like having your own little motorcycle, except it's an aircraft, it's a fighter, and you can go up there under a 1,500-foot ceiling. And the nice thing about that is all those convoys, even though it's daytime, they're not afraid of anybody hitting them, so they're all out on the roads, thousands of trucks. So if you get under the ceiling and you go up there and you have armament, and we do have 20 millimeter cannon, which tear trucks up very, very nicely, you can get into a lot of action. So that's what we did all afternoon. We refueled twice each mission in Laos, so we had 5.5 hours in the air over North Vietnam. So what we did is that we found about 5 or 6 convoys that afternoon, and we expended all our 20 millimeter ammunition and tore up probably literally 500 trucks in that one mission, one fighter, okay? Then we're out of ammunition. Now it's near the end of the mission. And there's another thing that we like to do, because what we would do is when we had the strike fighters in, we would call the big brass over in Laos and tell them when we found a convoy, we have a convoy. We've got one hiding down there up against the trees. So they would send all the strike fighters going in to North Vietnam to us. Our call sign was Misty. Dick Gruters was a Misty here that somebody was telling me about, just spoke at the library here north of Dayton. He was the first guy to fly around the world unrefueled, remember that, about 40 years ago? Anyway, he was a Misty, and so what we would do is basically, you know, when they gave us the fighters, when the fighters were overhead, we'd mark the front of the convoy with a smoke rocket. They'd cut the road. Then we'd mark the back of the convoy with a smoke rocket. They'd cut the road. Now we've got 200, 300 trucks between 2 road cuts. Then we've got fighters coming from all over the place, and as they come on, we hit that convoy. Those trucks can't move now. They can't get out of the way. And we just blow them to pieces. It takes about an hour, hour and a half. And we go find another convoy. That's what we generally did. But the trouble is there's a lot of guns in North Vietnam. And a lot of these gun sites are very accurate. They're good. They're good. And maybe 1 in 5 was good. Now the gun sites were 36 gun positions of cannons. You know, they had, we used artillery in 6 gun batteries, and they did too. But they combined them into 6 gun batteries, 36 gun positions, probably for logistics reasons and so on. Their roads and infrastructure is nothing like we're used to. Their roads were horrible. You could only move 5 or 10 miles an hour. So they had these gun sites together. Well, when you had one of these gun sites, it was good. They were very well camouflaged. They'd open up on you when you're bringing fighters in. All of a sudden, they'd open up on you. They'd get one of your fighters that you're bringing in, or they'd come close to it. So whenever we knew where there was a good gun site, we would mark it. We would find out where it is on our 1 to 50,000 scale maps. And then we do that at the end of the day, because if we did it at the beginning of the day where we found out where they were, they'd move. But if we found them at the end of the day, they didn't like to move in the dark, because then they had to move in the dark, and then they had to set up their camouflage. It's a pain in the butt to move all these guns. So we tried to find them tried to get their particular locations at the end of the day. And then the next morning at dawn, we'd hit them. We destroy the guns. We destroy those 36 guns. And the way we destroy them is that we roll over the top at 10,000 feet and dive straight down on them. Now they had bags around them, sandbags around each position. So you couldn't get them with strafe from the side, because they had literally a wall of sandbags. But coming straight down on them, they didn't have any protection from the 20 millimeter. And the 20 millimeters in our little fighter, these are F-100s, the first supersonic fighter, 60, 70 years ago. Those guns fired at 100 rounds a second, okay? So every time you squeeze that trigger for a couple seconds, you have hundreds of rounds of 20 millimeter. And it was 4 independent cannons, and each of them is a little bit different firing, so it's sort of like a shotgun pattern versus a rifle, okay? The Gatling guns fire everything through the same hole, same rate of fire, 6,000 rounds a minute, 100 rounds a second. But they fire almost put a hole in the wall here. But an F-100 would bracket that whole wall so it's wonderful when you're diving on guns and they're spread over a geographic area. So we come down and they're firing at us. And now they got all their dreams come true, because we're not moving sideways and we're not weaving. We're coming straight down. So they're here with these guns and they're firing up at us. And here this thing is just a spot, just coming down, about 2 miles out. And so, but remember, we're coming down at them and we're coming down in your face, right? So the only thing that they have to hit, the cross section of the fuselage or the cross section of the wings, we're not like this to them. We're not like that. We're going right like this, okay? So as you dive down on those guns, you're diving, when you dive in and you turn down, you're diving into effectively a circle of heavy fire. Literally, hundreds and thousands of tracers are coming up at you. 37, 57, 90 millimeter tracers are coming up at you. And every tracer every round is a tracer, unlike on a 50 where it's 1 in 5. These things are, hard balls and soft balls of fire. And as they come up to you, they're going all around you. Okay? In other words, it's a solid flame, and then as they get to you, boom, 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 they're going all around you. And you just wait until about 3,000, 2,500 feet, and then they get the first shot, and then you squeeze your trigger. And those 20 millimeters come right down into their gun positions from the top, very nicely spread out, and you just move your stick a little bit and your rudder a little bit, and you cover 36 guns with the 20 millimeter, okay? So we called it gunfighting. You weren't allowed to gunfight. It was considered too dangerous. But we were sick at losing guys, and we wanted to get the good guns out of the equation, because really some gun sites were run by very good commanding officers, and they were much better than others, so we tried to get the good ones. So this particular day, now we had a chance. It was about 5:30 in the afternoon. We're going to get one of these gun sites that had been giving us trouble. So we didn't know exactly where it was. That's the problem. They're very well camouflaged. So we established a very nice turn about 1,000, 1,500 feet away. I'd say at that altitude, but about a mile away. And we circled the area where we knew they were. And sure enough, they took the bait and they opened up on us. And as they opened up on us now, we can see each position. And so on a 1 to 50 map, you can plot those positions so you can hit them at dawn the next day. So I'm plotting the thinking positions. Craner is flying a plane. I'm plotting the positions, and these tracers are going, the way they look, they go way out in front of you, then they fall through your aircraft, okay? So this is going on for about 5 or 10 seconds, and then one of these tracers, for some reason, caught my eye because it was a 57 millimeter, because it stopped. And this is happening quick. These things are moving. Way out in front and stopped. Of course, it's on a collision course. That's why it stopped, right? So it came. I followed it all the way in that last second, and it was coming right for my head. So it was going to hit my cockpit. I followed it all the way to within the wingspan of the aircraft. So I literally ducked my head to the right to avoid a direct hit by this thing, and figured that, well, my only chance is it's a dud. Because if that thing explodes on the canopy, I'm so dead, it's unbelievable. These are good-sized shells. But meanwhile, we're moving forward, and the thing explodes 4 feet behind me, which is not good, because there's 2 hydraulic pumps. Bad engineering, main and alternate, 4 feet behind me. So the shell hit directly on the pumps. So you've got a main and alternate hydraulic pump because everything that you have, your controls, the ailerons, the elevators, and your rudders are run by hydraulics. So you've got to have hydraulic power. Not a good thing to get them both knocked out instantaneously, and they were. So the plane yawed badly and went over on its back and right into the ground from about 1,500 feet. So all of a sudden, I figured Craner he wasn't moving. There's mountains about a mile or so this way. We're in a valley. There's a mile of ridge line on both sides. And so I figured, well, he must have got hit by a shrapnel. So he's probably dead. You never say anything as a guy in the back. You know, when you're not in command, you just shut up, okay? But this time I figured he's probably dead. So I said, Bob, the mountains. Because we're not turning, we're just going over. He said, negative, get out, as we go upside down. So I pulled the ejection handle, the canopy blew, and went out. And then I squeezed the trigger and ejected. Now, very interesting thing here. Here we are, 1,500 feet, moving at 500 miles an hour. The plane goes, bang, into the ground, okay? The first time we were on fire for 2.5 minutes, going out into made it out from, say, 10 miles inland to the coast, just across the coast, got out and the plane blew up, okay? In both cases, when the fire is right up to the cockpit the first time, and had been there for 2.5 minutes, and everybody's screaming at us, 20 fighter pilots are screaming at us, get out, Misty, get out, you're a ball of fire, it's gonna blow, it's gonna blow, it's gonna blow. But we didn't, because we knew if we went out over that city, you know, we'd be shot to pieces. There's 1,000 rounds coming up every couple of seconds. We'd be shot to pieces in the chutes trying to get down. So we made the coast and we were okay. But now here, is that hard to make a decision to get out of the aircraft? Is it hard? The plane's burning. The fire, both wings are completely on fire. The fuselage is on fire. It was the hardest thing in my life to pull those handles up and eject. Isn't that funny? Okay. The second time, the same thing. Over and in, right? Is there any decision here? One thing that was tough was it looks like you're blowing yourself into the ground. You're upside down, okay? But still, what's your alternative? Okay, so obviously, it's got to be easy, right? It's not easy. It's tough to get out of a plane, just like I'm sure it's tough to leave a sinking ship. I'm sure there's the same kind of thing happens, but I thought that was very interesting. And we've been through ejection seat training and all that kind of stuff over and over and over again. So we knew how to do it, and we knew, you know, you had to do this. And this explains something to me I saw at Luke Air Force Base when I was training on the F-100. They had F-100, we had 2,500 F-100s. This was holding nuclear alert in Japan and Europe and all over the place. That was mainline tactical air command. We had 2,500 F-100s. They were holding nuclear alert, okay? We lost 850 F-100 dead in 8 years of peacetime. We lost 100 fighter pilots a year, okay, in accidents. accidents. This is not combat, 100 a year in accidents. So at Luke, I read through all 850 of those accident reports. Half of them, the guys could have got out, but they waited too late. The chutes didn't open. The seats hit the ground before the chute opened. You know what I'm saying? Half of them. And when I went through that, I said, why didn't they get out? They could have made it. What, were they trying to save the plane? A lot of them were, but a lot of them weren't. But they waited too late, okay? So after I'd been through ejections, I understood the game. It's really tough to get out of a fighter. At any rate, when we ejected, I got a chute, okay? And I remember thinking, this was the second mission and 2 times shot down. I remember thinking, I never, you know, we'd say this, but I never really felt it deep in my heart. But what went through my mind was, are you shitting me? That's honestly what through my mind. And I said, oh, you know, stop being a baby, you know, to myself. You know, I said, shut up, you know. And I got a chute. All of a sudden, you go from the roar of the fighter to absolutely dead quiet. And as I got the chute, I had a tangled chute, so I had to cut the riser. Now, my God was big knives. You know, you don't have the true God when you're a young man, you know. One of my little idols was nice big hunting knives. So I had ordered a Randall knife. Do you guys know a Randall knife? Anybody knows a Randall knife? Back then they were $500. Remember, I'm married with 2 young kids. But back in the 60s, I put $500 into a Randall Attack Survival, you know, with a hollow handle and so on. It took me 13 months to get that knife. I'd gotten it in a week. Every time I got a big knife, somehow I lost it. God, you know, would take it away from me. This was no different, because I'm worshiping these stinking knives, you know. So at any rate, I have to, but this time it saved my life, because with the Randall knife, with the long blade, I could just barely cut the tangled risers, and the collapsed chute opened, right? It's coming down fast now, because I had cut 3 or 4 risers. It's coming down fast, but now I can slip it. I've been through airborne training. I know how to slip a chute. In this valley, there's woods in the center of the valley, a little patch of woods like there is around here, you know, like farm woods. There's villages all over the place. Well, no sooner do I get the chute, do I have a chute that's working now, then I hear all over this valley from all these little villages, gong, 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 gong. I am stupid, but even I knew that those gongs meant everybody get out and get the pilot that's coming down, okay? Because everybody started emptying out of those villages and coming toward Kramer and myself. We were separated quite a bit, and I didn't see him anymore because I'm just worried about getting to that, slipping and getting to those stinking woods, because I know if we go down those rice paddies, there's people all over the paddies. I don't have a chance. So I'm slipping down, and one of the things that happened was, of course, the first thing I did was feel for my 38 automatic, but they had not my 38 revolver. They hadn't returned it. The personal equipment people hadn't returned it, because I wasn't supposed to fly until the 1st of January because I had a cast on my arm and I had a shattered wrist and all this kind of stuff, and they weren't going to take it off until the 1st of January. But I decided to cut the cast off early, so I was flying on the 20th of December. So basically, as I'm coming down, I have this, check my gun. The gun's not there. Personal equipment, you know, they were scheduled, so I don't have a gun. I'm without a gun. I got my knife, and that's it. So as I'm coming down, I have a number of soldiers kneeling with AK-47s in uniform and emptying clips at me. And they're missing from 200 and 300 and 400 yards. And they're in kneeling positions. And I remember thinking, boy, you guys are a pathetic disgrace. I mean, I really did. I thought, how can you guys miss? But they missed, and they're hitting the chute, but they're not hitting me. I guess I was coming down pretty fast, but there was no excuse for missing those shots. Obviously, they never hunted ducks. They never hunted ducks, because I would have had 50 bullets through me. I really would have. So I came over this woods. Now I had another decision. The decision is do I deploy my 65-pound seat pack that's strapped to my flight suit, okay? That seat pack now, they tell you to leave it on when you're going into a tree landing so you don't get a branch, you know, up your whatever, or you don't hit a branch. You're coming down, you know, pretty fast. You hit a branch, bad things happen. So they tell you, keep the seat pack on. But if you do, you're guaranteed a broken leg, okay? So I figured I don't have a chance if I get a broken leg. So I deployed just over the trees, I deployed the kit. And God, you know, I let go of the trip, I let go of the chute, had nothing to do with it. The chute whips around and bam, takes me down on an angle and takes me down between a couple of trees. I hit the ground, get off. I got people running from all directions into this very small clearing. I take off everything I've got, all my survival kit and everything. I just keep two survival radios, figuring that if I could just get to the mountains tonight, if I can make it till nighttime and get to those mountains, all I need is my radios really, and I'll pick, you know, radio for pickup in the morning when the big number of fighters come back in. So I run up one direction on a path out of this little clearing and then back on the ground, and I crawl up, crawl away. Almost immediately as I crawl into the jungle, I hear people coming to the clearing in very low voices, you know. First, you know, 2 or 3, then 5, then 10, then 15 people, and they're all talking in low voices like whispers and so on, but I could hear them. And then I hear them, you know, obviously setting up a search, and they start coming. I can't move fast, I'm trying to move slow. I'm in jungle, I'm low, I'm right on the ground. I can't move fast, I don't want to make any noise. And so basically, these guys come out and they're moving fast, they don't care, they're looking for me, they know I hit that thing because all my equipment is there. So they're moving out, so I gotta move, so I gotta get going. So I figured, how the heck am I gonna get out of this? But I came to a little stream, a dry stream bed in this woods. And the dry stream bed made like a tunnel through the jungle, like a tunnel, a low tunnel, no water in the stream bed. So I got up to where I could move. I figured, here's my chance, I can move along that stream bed. So I got up, but as I got up, I saw a path on the other side. Now, I'd been out on only one night ambush patrol with the long-range reconnaissance patrols of the 173rd Airborne. And one of the things they told me is you never cross a path when you're behind enemy lines, because it's so easy to watch a path, that's where they'll be. And you gotta at least wait a half an hour or an hour before you cross a path. Make sure there's no watchers on the path. So when I saw the path, when I got up high enough and I could see the bank, there was a path there, I immediately dropped down, but too late, this person starts screaming not 5 feet from me. So close that I ran. There's no sense in hiding now. I ran down that trail to the other side. I never looked at that person. I figured, and this is where I felt that when I was run down that path, I remember thinking, holy crap, this is how a rabbit feels, you know? Because I was moving like the wind. I'm not particularly fast, but I was fast. I was really fast. So I'm going down this thing, and I think I distanced myself from this watcher because I think they were just afraid or something, and they didn't come after me. And I broke out into a clearing where there was a pond on the right, and straight ahead there was a road like coming to this pond. It wasn't a road, but it was like an ATV path or whatever, you know, where the villagers obviously came to this pond to get water for their villages. So I knew there's going to be people up there because the people are crashing, you know, probably literally 50 people are crashing through the jungle to the left of me, you know, coming after me when they heard this person scream. So I figured, well, it's the only chance I have. I can't go that way, I can't go that way, can't go back. So I jumped up on the road, there's nobody on the road. I go 50 yards down and, you know, not figuring that's enough, I can't risk anything more. I get down again and I go right to go right crawling. In 15, 20 feet, maybe 30 feet, but really probably 20 feet, I come to another path parallel to the road and I don't dare cross it. I come back between and I make another mayday call. I'd made one mayday call when I first was shot down. I make another mayday call, but nobody else is in North Vietnam, remember, so nobody hears my maydays. So I put my radios under my belly. I have a green flight suit, and I bury my head and my hands into the ground, and I'm just motionless there. And all kinds of people, civilians and soldiers, come by on both paths over the next 40 minutes. But over the next 40 minutes, Nobody says anything. It's getting darker and darker and darker. So, not knowing, I don't move for about 5 or 10 seconds. They're screaming like crazy. Finally, I very slowly look up. I'm looking down 2 AK-47s from about 10 feet apart, 10 feet away. It was almost worthwhile getting captured and being in prison camp to look on to see the look on those soldiers' face. It was sort of like this. Hey, who is it? Who? Hi, ho! Hey, ho! You know, 2 young soldiers, you know, captured this pilot, come down in their country. So I very slowly got up and walked over to them, you know. Meanwhile, a bunch of their buddies are coming. Pretty soon I got 11 guys around me. Very quickly I'm stripped. I'm in my underwear, skivvies. I have no shoes, no socks. I have nothing except my underwear. They tie my hands tightly behind my back and they shackle my ankles. You know what a shackle of an ankle is? A short rope between the ankles, okay? So now I can just shuffle like this. So I'm Guy Gruters. I'm a tough fighter pilot, you know. I'm a tough soldier, etc., etc., etc. Typical young man tough. And now, and they're never going to take me alive. If they take me, I'm going to escape. Pretty hard to escape when you're in your underwear barefoot, you know, with your freaking hands tied behind you, your feet shackled. But at any rate, so this is not like the books. This is not like the movie. This is not like what I thought it was going to be based on John Wayne's movies. So at any rate, I'm there, and these 11 guys there, and everything's pretty quiet. And the officer comes up. The officer's got a different kind of hat. This is full dress uniform. The officer comes up. He's got a revolver in his a holster, a covered holster. And he's not a real tall guy, and he comes walking up to me. He's cursing me, obviously, in Vietnamese. Of course, remember, he's speaking Vietnamese. These guys are speaking Vietnamese. I don't know a word they're saying. He comes up, boom, like that, slaps me. So as he slaps me, I said, boy, in my mind, boy, is that low class. That is low class. He hits me like a girl would hit me. You know, I was on the boxing team and judo. You know, I was used to being hit. This guy comes up to me. You know, are you kidding me? Okay. So I'm thinking, boy, that's low class. And the other thing I thought was, boy, that's right out of the Korean War comics. Did you ever see the Korean War comic books? You remember those? You guys didn't see them. See, I grew up with those. Here's a Korean War comic book. Every frame, you know, you got a a North Korean soldier or a U.S. soldier. Here's the U.S. soldiers in the comic books. Here's the communist soldiers. Every frame, okay? So that's what this was. I'm standing there, innocent as can be, and he slaps me, okay? But this guy saves my life a couple minutes later. So he leads his squad outside of that jungle, and we get out into the open rice paddies. And as they do, these guys start grabbing at my clenched left fist. When they grab it, I clench my fist. Because there's an Air Force Academy ring on it, which is great wealth to them, that I didn't realize at the time. But I've been in the hospital, and the doctors told me, don't get cut over here. We get guys with infections, and we can't stop it, and they just die in the hospitals left and right because of these stinking bugs and antibiotics. Nothing works on them. So I didn't want to go to prison camp with my skin stripped off my finger. I honestly didn't care about the Academy ring. I never have. I never got another one since I came back. But at any rate, I did care about that wound. It was a real tight ring. So I clenched my hand, and they couldn't get it off, okay? So I want to get it off. I want to try to lick my finger, you know, get in the ring. I don't care about the ring. They're jerking my hand, you know, 2 or 3 of them are jerking my hands and arms all over the place. So I'm trying to get my hand around, but I can't because it's tied to the other hand. I can't do anything. So finally, after a couple minutes of this, I say, I just very much like this, I say, let me get to my hand! Okay? So, bam! Got hit on the side of the head with a rifle butt, you know, stunned me, dropped me to my feet, and then they kicked and beat me like hell for about, you know, a couple minutes at least. I figured, I was thinking during the time, well, this is what it feels like to be beat to death. You know, I've never been hit that hard in my life. You know, rifle butts you can really hit. The kicks are bad, but the rifle butts were really bad. So they really hit me hard. I'm stunned. I'm really stunned, and I'm losing it. And all of a sudden they stop. All of a sudden they stop. And they get me back to my feet. Takes them a little while, but I'm back on my feet. And walking out again. And as I'm walking along, these guys are, I still have my hands clenched, and I hear behind me, hey, hey. So I look behind me, and the one guy has grabbed the other guy's hand who has a knife in it. He's going to cut that finger off or the hand off to get that ring. Okay, it's like a year's money to these guys. They got nothing. They got nothing in those areas. So at any rate, when I saw that, I said, the hell with this. So I just put my fingers out straight, and they pulled the ring off, and they got the ring off. It didn't cut me open, so I'm fine. So I'm going along, and all of a sudden, literally hundreds of people, I see them at a distance, and they keep closing, and they literally are screaming and waving bayonets. Not bayonets, machetes. You know, typical farm tool in the whole world is a machete. It's great. It's a shovel, it's a harvester, it's everything. And all, 4 billion people in this world use them to grow their food, okay? And Vietnam's no exception. They all have machetes. So they're all coming, and we've seen this where they surround a pilot, it's down in the rice paddy. They come around and they just cut them into pieces with these machetes, right? So now I'm in the center of the circle of the guys coming in. So they're coming from all directions. So this guard, this officer that was such to me a fairy, he wasn't a fairy, it's just he didn't know how to hit because he probably, well, it's true, Americans use baseball and stuff. We know how to hit, and axes. Apparently a lot of people in the world, they play soccer only and they just don't know how to use their arms very well. But anyway, this guy who I was just thought he was just a little fairy. He tells these, I've been through Marine bayonet training and I see it now in Vietnamese. Unsheath bayonets, and 11 guys take their bayonets out of their scabbards, Fixed bayonets, and they put their bayonets on the AK-47s. And then something obviously meant form a circle around the prisoner. Because they formed a circle around me, looking out at this crowd coming in, and some of them were touching me. That's how tight into me they were, okay? And the crowd is still coming. Nothing slows this crowd, this mob coming in. So then he says, lower bayonets, okay? And the stinking lowers the bayonets. The bayonets are now facing the crowd coming in. And then he shouted something which I really believe was, my next command is fire! Because the crowd stopped about 15 yards out. They stopped like they skidded to a stop, okay? And then he shouted another command, which was obviously, open a hole towards such and such a village. Because they opened the hole and we went through there, and it was about a 2-hour hike to the nearest village where we were kept for the next few days. The other interesting thing, how are we doing in time? You want to? It's okay? All right, very good. Okay, so the next interesting thing that happened was that 2 or 3 days later, after they took our socks off, so now you got no socks, but they had the boots near the bed. Well, I'm being kept in a village chief's hut. This is a 200 huts, say, in this village, and I'm in the mayor's hut. And he has 4 kids, and he and his wife and the 4 kids are in the big bunk, but it's not a bunk, it's just a woven bamboo mat. There's no mattresses or anything like that. There's 2 little mattresses, obviously 2 little mattresses, 2 little bamboo platforms that the kids slept on. But they're not sleeping with their parents. They got a guard across from me, and they got a couple guards outside. So here I am in this hut. I put my boots back. Okay, so now I got boots. Now I don't have socks. I didn't understand what that meant, okay? But at any rate, I had boots and I had, underwear, that's fine. if I could just get out of here, I really felt I'd been Boy Scouts and, you know, I trapped. I figured I could make it across, I could get across North Vietnam into Laos and, somehow get to a friendly position. So I think if I could just get out of here, here's my chance, because at night, in the middle of the night, this guard would go to sleep, he'd nod off, right? And the bench is across the door, okay? Couldn't move him, I'd wake him up. But there's a back entrance to an air raid shelter in this hut. A hole going down. And when I went outside to go to the bathroom, by the way, is there's nothing like a bathroom in these huts. Okay, this is socialism. This is 5,000 years of tyrannical government. These people have nothing, man. And they're just as smart as we are. This is why you got to have a constitution. Please keep the government off the people. Please keep the friggin' government off the people. Okay, I saw what it's like when the government is on the people. That means the people have nothing. And the only people who have anything is the government. That's what really happens. At any rate, I'm in this little hut, and I figured, well, if I can just get out that back air raid entrance. So I try to nod off or be as rested as I can during the daytime. And then at night, I can see this guy. I go to sleep, I wake up, and in the middle of the night, this guy's nodding off. So I start to get up. I get up on the side of this bunk, and I put my boots on, just to see what happens. Nothing happens. Then as I get up, this teenage girl, one of the 4 kids, teenage girl with horrible, horrible pock marks. I guess smallpox. I don't know what it is. But her whole face, probably the sharpest human being I've ever seen. She says something, and the guard, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, of course, he's speaking Vietnamese. So I said, the tio. The tio means bathroom. See, bathroom. The tio. He goes, but I gave him a way out, thank God. Saved his face, So he leads me out, I try to go to the bathroom. Now, the way you go to a bathroom in these villages is there's a hole outside. So you go outside, they lead you outside, and you go to this hole. And, there's hundreds of people, men, women, children, everybody uses this hole to go to the bathroom. There's nothing around the hole. Okay, you're in plain view. So, but when I went out there, the whole friggin' village emptied to see, do these guys go to the bathroom like we do? Which is rather disconcerting. You're squatting there going to the bathroom and you've got 300 people looking around. Oh, yeah. Looks normal. Weird. At any rate, then the women come in with their baskets on poles, and they scoop out the poop and the urine, and they bring that out to the rice paddies. Okay? And so and this is not composted. So this is why their average, when I was studying them, they died at an average of 40 years old because of uncomposted sewage. You can use human manure, but you've got to compost it. They didn't. So they're full of terrible parasites their whole life from the poop, working with this poop, and they work with the poop in the hands, all day long and all this kind of stuff. Okay, so at any rate, the other thing that's interesting about that was it's a 10-foot by 20-foot house, and this is the village mayor, dirt floor, and these are hard-working people. That woman bent over like this with a homemade whisk broom, and swept that floor out, that dirt floor out about 6 times every day, no kidding. Okay? Twice a day, it's all dirt floor. They had 2 pairs of pajamas each. They gave us 2 pairs of pajamas, for 5 years. Everybody said, how come they could be so cruel? But it wasn't cruel to me, because I knew what their people lived with. 2 pair of pajamas, that's what they had. They had 2 pegs for each of the people in that family. Okay, 2 pair of pajamas, literally. Okay, that's their whole friggin' wardrobe. There's no closets. There's no, anything for the food. There's no kitchen cabinets. There's no stoves, ovens, electricity, anything. Right? So at any rate, she would make a stick fire, because of course all the firewood's long gone. There's thousands of years of civilization. So they use sticks, make a little stick fire and a little pot on that, put the rice in there, and you eat this rice gruel effectively. No meat, nothing like that. This is what these people do day in, day out, year in, year out. Okay, so Now, after 2 or 3 days, they tell us that put your boots on, effectively, we're going to take you. And they gave us back our flight suits now. So now we got our flight suits, and I said, oh, this is great. Now, now we got our flight suits and our boots. And they start us walking up into the mountains. And I've got the same woman on me, the same girl, the same teenager. She's got a rifle, and the guard, a different officer, he's got a pistol. And the two of them are taking me, and the two of them are taking Craner in front of me. Now, we're both blindfolded, and of course, hands tied in shackles. But the basic idea is that when I trip, I can see over the top of the blindfold. If you've ever been blindfolded, if the blindfold isn't put on good, and you trip, you can see over that blindfold. So I could see over that, so I knew I could see if I had to. Crater's out in front of me about 300-400 yards, and we start walking up into these mountains for about 3 hours. This is like from 8 in the morning. Most don't have a watch or anything, but we walked a good, 3-4 hours at least, okay? And as we get up near the foothills, pretty high up, maybe up, 2,000, 3,000 feet, as we get up to the foothills, there's ridges coming off the main mountains, and Craner goes over this ridge, and I hear a volley of shots ring out. So I think, boy, that was fast. It's a fire squad. So I figured, well, that was quick. Well, that's a good way to die. That's easy. So as I come up to the top of the hill, I pretend to trip, and I look over the top of my blindfold, and sure enough, here's a firing squad, literally 30 or 40 soldiers in full dress, bright uniforms, all with their rifles, standing around with their rifles to my left. And now they take me and they put me to the right. I know how I'm going because I saw through my blindfold. I'm out in front of these guys about 20, 30 yards, okay? And they put me on my knees with my back to these people, okay? So I remember thinking to myself, okay, now just shut up, no matter what they say, just don't even answer, just forget it, this is easy, just take it easy. You're dead, that's it, okay? So I'm on my knees. I've got the philosophy that, it's all right, no big deal. And the volley of shots rings out. And my body jerked. I told my mind, you're going to die. My body didn't like that. My body jerked, okay, which I thought was interesting. And as the body jerked, about 20 people came and started beating me with clubs out of the brush, out of the jungle. So obviously what they were doing is filming the capture of a pilot, an American pilot for their internal propaganda movies, So they did that with Craner, and they did it with me. And then they brought us back 3 or 4 hours down there. For the next 2 months, I hit about 12 to 15 horrible, deep boils from the combat boots, which were my combat boots, understand. They were broken in. But that's what lack of socks do to somebody that's used to wearing socks. You see that? Very interesting. I thought that was so interesting. Because if I'd escaped, I tried to get out of there 2 or 3 different nights. If I'd escaped and tried to go across those mountains, with those combat boots, I never would have made it. These feet were so painful with those sores, with those boils, it was unbelievable. Okay? It was really bad. I could barely walk for months. So, at any rate, then they came and they got us with a truck to bring us to a little holding camp. I was in 6 different prison camps. There was a little holding camp. There was just 3 of us in that holding camp. And they brought us to that holding camp in a Jeep, and they stopped at 3 different villages. And in the villages, they'd have us, you hear a gauntlet where the Indians had you run through the village, Okay. We got to go through the villages with tied hands and shackles, this fast as, hundreds of people beat on you, right? So I did that 3 times, and then they brought me to a little holding camp, and which is 5 by 6 dirt floors. You're sleeping on the dirt, and we were there for probably 2 weeks or whatever, and then started the truck ride north. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. I just wanted to tell you about that shoot down and the capture. That's really what it was. From then on, it was just camp after camp. And, different things in North Vietnam. 2 weeks later, we brought to the Hanoi Hilton. And I was in the Hanoi Hilton 2 times and, 5 of the camps. Okay, thanks for your attention. Enjoy talking.
Let's all stand to give God a round of applause, please. Another good respect guy. Appreciate you taking the time to come down and share this with us. And just amazing perspective. And Guy lives in Sydney and is still married to the wife he was married to before he was shot down, Sandy. And how long have you been married, Guy?
54 years.
54 years.
She waited 6 years for me, 2.5 years without a letter. Then she had 5 more kids when we came home.
And what's been your impression of where we can you would share of what we're doing?
I think we're so happy, it's unbelievable. It's just so great, I can't even stand it. Honestly, I can't even believe it. I tell everybody about it. Hope and against hope, and it goes all over the country, for soldiers. Because I think, it's one thing to be a soldier, in a combat unit, but then you're injured, you're hurt afterwards, and these Gold Star families are the same way. And, you're in among people that have no idea, what's going on. Now you're in the civilian world. There's no talking to civilians, they have no idea. They just can't understand it. And so now it's just what everybody's saying. You come here, oh, good. You can talk to people. People understand what's going on. You get real friendship. You get deep friendships, and everything's okay. Yeah, we're okay. We get through this thing. We got each other to help.
Can you stay around for a little bit, Guy, just to
I'm gonna
say hi to people, please?
be around for a little bit.
That would be awesome. Thanks again. Thanks again, Mr. Barbecue, for the awesome chow. Thank you. Appreciate that. And, Steve Brock, raise your hand. Thank you, Grainworks, for your support. I believe we have a fair amount of barbecue meat over here, so I encourage you to grab a handful and put it in your pocket. Take it home. I don't have a plan for what to do with Mike. Get over there.
Anything that is here is gold. Unfortunately, we did not bring any goat stuff. But yeah, it is. It's yours.
Seriously, if you have a purpose for 5 pounds of grilled meat, I don't. I mean, I like a little bit of it, but
It freezes very well.
if you have a purpose for it, like you have an event tomorrow, or I don't know, you want to sit in your car and binge, please feel free to have whatever you like. Have a great night. Feel free to stay around a little bit and mingle. Thanks, everybody.